Welcome to the Empowered Money Girl, where we break down the barriers to financial confidence, celebrate women's wins, and reveal the secrets to living boldly and well. I'm your host, Josette Mandela, and I have a question for you. What does it take to build something extraordinary, something that grows, innovates, and makes a real impact in the world? Shari Costantini knows the answer firsthand. She's a serial entrepreneur and former CEO and founder of Avant Healthcare Professionals, which she scaled to $175 million before exiting in 2021. Under her leadership, Avant earned spots on the Inc. 505,000 7 times, was named one of the 250 fastest growing companies in Florida, and she was honored as an EY Entrepreneur of the Year in 2017. Today, as CEO and co-founder of Kismet Technologies, Shari leads a team of scientists commercializing a novel mineral-based antimicrobial technology poised to disrupt the $10 billion additive market. She's raised over $60 million in capital and continues to serve on several boards, including Nemours Children's Health in Florida. If you're ready to discover how vision, strategy, and courage can transform entire industries and inspire the next generation of women leaders, you'll love this episode. Please welcome the visionary, resilient, and trailblazing Shari Costantini.
Thank you, Josette. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So, can you take us back to the beginning? What was your path like to where you are today?
Well, I was not planning on being an entrepreneur. It's just kind of how life happened. So I worked for a couple companies in the business side of healthcare on healthcare services, um, both in home care and in international healthcare staffing. And interestingly enough, when I decided to go out on my own, it was because I wanted to spend more time with my family. People think that's kind of crazy, but at the time I was living in Orlando, building an international healthcare staffing division for a company based in Jacksonville, and then traveling around the US and internationally to either work with US healthcare clients or to recruit clinicians to come to the US. And so having a business based here seemed like a good idea as I had 3 kids under the age of 6 years old. And basically how it evolved is as a nurse in the healthcare business, I had been doing this for a little while and saw a path to really change how international nurses are trained and transitioned into hospitals. Most people don't know, but we have had an ongoing nursing shortage in this country since 1937, with the exception of a few years here and there where the shortage has subsided. And so as a result of that, finding innovative ways to staff in this country is critical. And so using international clinicians is certainly a viable option. And what we were able to do was to create clinical programs that prepped clinicians from all over the world, nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapists. And in addition to that, we prepped customers, client hospitals, home care agencies, nursing homes, how to best receive, transition, and acclimate these clinicians so that they'll ramp up as quickly as possible and make an impact on their patient care. So it was a really innovative approach.
Yeah, I would say so. And I know I had never heard that. I mean, certainly recently you hear about the nursing shortage, but I didn't realize that it went all the way back to 1937.
Yeah,
And
few people know that, and it's certainly been a challenge for the profession that continues, and especially with a global pandemic. that just put a spotlight on it.
That makes sense. So at what point in all of this did you decide I think I want to be a leader rather than just part of the staff?
Well, it was really with starting the company. I had So in some of my previous jobs, I had led organizations. When I was in home care, I often tell people that, I was 26 years old managing a home health agency. A year later, I managed 8 home health agencies. And for the most part, if it wasn't the home health aides, I was the youngest person in the agency, managing clinicians and other support personnel. So I kind of gravitated towards leadership early, but starting my own company certainly took it to a whole new level. And really figuring it out. It's fairly unusual for somebody to found a company and grow that company over the course of 18 years with private equity, with strategic investment, and still be the CEO. Because companies go through a lot of changes, when you're smaller, when you're, sub 100 million, you're over 100 million, you're over 50 million, you're over 100 million. And a lot of times, different leaders come in over those different phases of the company's growth. And people would ask me, well, how did you remain the leader all these years? And I said, I never stopped learning. So I always aspired to learn from others, to be a better leader, to learn how to scale the business from other people that had scaled businesses. What are the best practices? And really, challenge myself to be as good as I could be at whatever phase the company was at.
Yeah, and like you say, that really is unusual because most companies, like you say, they get to a certain point and the leader either doesn't want to learn the new skills to take that next step or they just, shall we say, get bored with the
Hmm.
company and decide, no, I like being in startups. This thing is getting too big for me and just decide to step away. So that's really amazing how you managed to find your path and go from small startup all the way up to over $175 million. I mean, that's really impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think what I heard you say earlier is, how do you make an impact? How do you innovate and make an impact? And that was a real gift with my last company, Avant Healthcare Professionals, bringing in clinicians from around the world, making an impact for those people, their families back in their home countries, as well as for patients here in the US, getting care that maybe they would not have the opportunity to get if it weren't for having adequate staffing. So that was a real gift and allowed me to continue to be really motivated to plug into that company. And then when it was time for me to leave, um, I wanted to find something else where I could make an impact and was fortunate to do that with Kismet.
So, tell us a little about Kismet. I mean, that really sounds like an interesting company and $10 billion industry. That gives you a lot of room for growth.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Well, what I found is that coming into a business the second time around, you certainly have lessons learned. Having a successful exit takes some of that financial pressure off me personally, which is nice because, like many entrepreneurs with Avant, all my wealth was really tied up in that business. And so, having a little bit of breathing room this time around, being able to invest in the business and support the business financially makes it a little bit easier. But I will tell you, it is just as challenging this time. And some of that is that it's a different industry. And I'm leading scientists and engineers here that are really creating an innovation in the industry that's never been done before, creating a new kind of antimicrobial technology. And it's been a learning experience. We're working with some of the biggest companies around the world, multinational organizations in the spaces of healthcare disinfectants, food packaging, coatings, textiles. So, we've just had an opportunity to partner with these companies that really see the future being in a mineral-based antimicrobial that's much more sustainable than currently available antimicrobials.
Yeah, that really is fascinating to me. Having a bachelor's in biochemistry, I kind of love that stuff, even though that's not the area that I ended up ultimately going into. So you had mentioned a bit about your finances are in a much different place than the first business that you started. Would you consider yourself financially independent now, or how would you define financial independence?
I think of financial independence as being able to support myself through my current wealth and investments, and not needing to work for a living anymore. Now I really choose to work based on the impact and the opportunity. And, that wasn't some place that I thought I'd ever find myself in, but it's a very nice place to be. Um, and, not relying, and not that I ever really relied on anyone else because I was a single mother, and, had to support my children and all of that. But, after all these years and now I'm remarried, it's very nice to be at this point in life.
Yeah, I imagine it would be to be able to. I mean, that's certainly how I feel about money, is that I want to be able to. I'm going to do what I'm doing as long as I'm having fun, and I want a job or career that lets me do what I want when I want. And if I don't feel like working or take a month off, I want to be able to do that. So it sounds like you're at that point in your career now. So
Yes, and I think one of the things that was really pivotal for me is I I married my current husband who grew up with wealth and a trust fund, and then lost all of that money in his
mm,
20s and then rebuilt all of his wealth on his own. And so when we met, we, both had similar amounts of wealth. Mine was more on paper because I hadn't had a transaction with my company yet. But he had done a lot of really wise financial planning and surrounding himself with very smart people when it came to managing his money. Um, and that was a really great opportunity for me because I do think that it's challenging for people to say, who can I trust with my money?
mhm. Yeah, it's unfortunate the number of people that are just out for themselves, and like you say, who can I trust, and how do I find people that I can trust can be a challenge. So what kind of relationship would you say you have with money today?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I haven't really thought about that. I think, I've moved from this time in my life of wealth creation to more of wealth preservation. So when I think about financial decisions, I think of preserving that wealth. more than anything else.
And do you actively invest?
So I do some investment. I am a limited partner in a couple of venture funds. And then I have a financial planners that manage my stock portfolio and monies from past 401ks and that type of thing.
Okay. And that sounds like a great way to do it, especially when you're trying to run a new company, not having to do everything yourself. And that's certainly a good idea, is as the portfolio gets bigger to have other people available. But like you say, it's how can I be sure that the people that I'm entrusting this money with are doing the right thing?
Yeah, one thing I've learned being an entrepreneur myself and mentoring a lot of entrepreneurs over the years, supporting startup businesses, is that growing businesses is hard. And when I partnered with some professional venture funds, they're all about picking the winners. And, I'm okay to bet on myself and bet on Kismet, but when it comes to other startup companies or, growing companies, I've relied on funds to do that type of investment. So I don't do angel investment per se. I just really have invested in those companies through funds.
Okay, that makes sense. But I was using the term more broadly, like you own your own home, you
Oh,
invest in the stock market, that not just limited to businesses and that sort of thing. So,
correct, correct. Yes. So we own all of our real estate, and it's nice not to have much debt.
agreed, agreed. And it's a lot less stressful, easier to sleep at night when you don't have a lot of debt.
Correct. 100%.
So, what advice would you have for women who want to start building their financial independence, especially if they've relied on someone else in the past for that stability?
I think it's finding a trusted financial advisor. And I think that that's not always easy to do. Um, and I think, it's really going within your network and saying, who do I know and what's their track record and
Mm.
who do I know that's relied on them and they've produced results from? Because, it's that's kind of my approach is who do I trust to make decisions with my hard-earned money? Um, and it's not me. I'm not the one. I don't know the market. I know it well enough, but I need to have people that I can trust to manage it. And similarly with other businesses. And I agree that making some wise decisions, paying off mortgages, things like that. There was a time and place with very low interest rates that my husband and I decided we would have a small mortgage to maximize the interest deduction. And because the interest rate was so low, we were making much more money in our investment account. And when that interest rate flipped, and there was a lot of uncertainty in the market, especially earlier this year with tariffs and whatnot, we just decided that we didn't want to have any more mortgages. So we paid it off and and fortunately that investment account has built back up. So
Yeah, and it's always great when you could uh, be in that position where you can do that kind of pro and con. Does it make sense to have debt over here because it's so inexpensive and I can grow my investments so much quicker and not use that money today to make this particular purchase, and then in the future look at it again and say, okay, now does this still make sense or not? And that's it's always good when you have that kind of flexibility.
And it's good to know people that can help you do that analysis,
Mhm.
right? Because there's a lot of factors to take into account when you want to look at where should I put my money? Should I put it here? Should I put it here? And I think that's where it's important to have trusted advisors.
Agreed. So, how do you feel about women, the statement, always have their own money, and why or why not?
So, I would say you should. My husband and I are coming up on 10 years of marriage. We have a joint account and things that we jointly own. Now, we got married in our late 40s, but I still have my own investments, and he has his own investments and investment accounts. It was important for me to put my money into some uh, structures that provided asset protection as well. It was less important for him. You know, he has my children as his stepchildren, but I have three children. I have a special needs child. So being able to plan appropriately for them, financially with my estate, all of that was very important to me. So I think that's part of just being in control of your money, being in control of where you want it to be used currently and in the future.
And I agree with that. And that is something that I tell my clients is that yes, I understand that you you got married and you're not thinking about somewhere down the line that maybe this ends in divorce. And unfortunately, 50% of marriages end in divorce in the
Mhm.
US, and it's usually over money. But if you have a little pool that's just for you, then you don't have as much, at least what I've seen, you don't have that friction of one party or the other always feels like they're being taken advantage of if all the money is pooled. So it's better to each have some money that's separate from the joint account. And the other way that I do it is I suggest you have a money date night and you both get together and discuss, okay, these are the joint expenses. We're going to put this money together. This is our separate money, and it cuts down on that need for one person or the other feeling like they're paying more towards something that maybe they don't want to. And it gives you, especially women who don't spend a lot of time learning about finances for various reasons, um, it gives them that push maybe to actually go out there and learn some skills so that they can feel more comfortable with the money.
I think that's a great point. I think it's very important. I have three children. They're all women now, with the youngest being 24. And so certainly teaching them how to manage their money is important. And another thing when I did my estate planning, um, agree with this or not, it's what I decided was right for me and my daughters is that they do need to have prenuptial agreements related to the money in the estate. And I told them that this takes it off of you. This is your mother. This is what your mother wants. And, you know, it's something I'm planning to gift them. And if they're in a relationship with somebody that can't appreciate that, you know, it's they can come to me, right? It's not my daughter's choices. It was my choice. So that was something I felt was really important. And I appreciate my estate planning attorney bringing that up.
Yeah, and that wasn't something that I had thought about, but you're absolutely right. Is that and yes, I do agree with that. Is that each party brings in something, and when they leave, they get the something, and then you figure out how to split the rest of it.
Yeah.
that came in as part of the unit. But yeah, I've always been annoyed, I guess, at our legal system where one person having a sharper lawyer, if you will, a more aggressive lawyer, ends up getting stuff that really was a family asset even. Unfortunately, I had a couple of cousins that were housekeepers. They they would marry someone and then they would keep the house. And in one case, it was a case that he had built the house himself for his mother. And then when she passed, he kept the house himself. And when they divorced, she kept the house. To me, that shouldn't have happened. And yeah, a prenuptial agreement would have stopped that part from happening.
And that's a very tricky thing, even for people my age that have been married and divorced, and you go into a second marriage. Um, it, it, it's it's not an easy conversation to have. And so taking that out of their hands, I thought was wise
Mhm.
and protected, to your point, the family wealth that's truly theirs and not whomever their spouse is.
Mhm. So when it comes to your identity and personal power, do you act differently in your personal life or is what we see what we get, whether you're in business or your personal life?
I think what you see is what you get with me. So it's it's just who I am. And I think one of the best parts about being at this point in life is, feeling that you have freedom to choose a life of impact and purpose. And gosh, that's very freeing. Than in the early days when, you were making ends meet. And I see my kids doing that now. And I think that's good. It's a growth edge for them, right? I didn't really hand them anything. I certainly help them out with some things, but um, you know, it's it's good to be at this point in life. And yes, I'm like this at work. I'm like this in person, and in my charitable giving and, in my other relationships.
So what's next for you?
Well, at this point, it's finishing the journey that I'm on with Kismet. I would like to see this company's technology be commercialized into numerous products. We've already launched one. We have a second one getting ready to be commercialized, and then eventually selling the company. Um, and then for me, I'm kind of interested in board work or some other consulting type of work, but the heavy lifting of having a company, this will be it for me.
Okay. And if you had one message to give to the women listening today about owning their own independence, what would it be?
I would say to think big. And, um, for a lot of people just starting out and at different places in life, uh, they feel that the circumstances are overwhelming. So a little bit that you put away today goes a long way in the future. You don't know how life is going to work out for you and whether that little bit you put away is going to need to be taken out and to help you at some point before you had planned. But again, try to be proactive, think ahead, think big, and really just try to make your dreams a reality.
Oh, I love that. So thank you so much for joining us today, and a huge thank you for Shari Costantini for sharing her wisdom and energy with us. If you found value in this conversation, please subscribe, leave a review, and share the Empowered Money Girl with your friends. The more we spread these stories, the more women we can empower to live boldly, both financially and in every part of life. Until next time, Keep thriving, and remember, your journey to empowerment starts with you.